Our opening march, Carole King, Marvin Bailey's favorite, great way to start a program. Our second selection on the concert is probably the reason why it rained. And we always talk about this, you know, if we're going to do Strauss, Thunder and Lightning Polka or something like that, well, the next music piece is the water music. And so that's probably where that came from. But we're going to be doing two movements from Handel's water music, the air and the finale. And we were talking about this last night when this work got its premiere for King George I. It was done as a piece of music on the Thames River. And what the king was going to travel up the river, and he wanted special music. He had Handel write this piece. And so the king and his party were on a barge. They had a big orchestra, was on another barge, and a lot of London turned out in boats all up and down following him. And the king so loved the music that he had the orchestra play the entire work 3 times on the way up, and then 3 times on the way back. And the only time that the orchestra got a break was when the king got off the boat at their destination for a short while. Otherwise, they played the entire time. The band is glad that we're not on the river right now. So here is the air and the finale from The Water Music by George Friedrich Handel. Well, we have a couple of sponsors that we would like to thank this evening. First of all, a sponsor that's been with us for quite a while, and they do 2 concerts a year, and we are very grateful for their support. That's the Engel Fellowship of the International Order of Oddfellows. And a new sponsor this year for this particular concert is Pete's Meats. And there was going to be something very special out at the park from them. There was going to be some free snacks for everybody. But of course, as you know, walking into the PAC, there's these nice big signs that says, no food. So it was thought it might be better to leave that, and I think it's going to be there next week for us. So it's something else to look forward to our next concert. So thank you again to our sponsors for this and for all of our programs. As always, we have our little donation jars out. We always appreciate everybody's support. We have our Flower of the Month sale going on. That's out in the North lobby if you'd like to check that out. Also, just so you understand this as a little extra appeal, coming in to use the PAC is not free. Even when we do it at the last minute like this, there are charges for us to be able to use the facility. So anything you can do to help us out is truly appreciated. Next, we have a selection by a Wisconsin composer. Pierre LaPlante is still living in Wisconsin, still writing marvelous music for bands. And we always appreciate the work that he's done. He's been very, very active with our schools and with student compositions. This particular work, A Walk in the Morning Sun, he wrote as being inspired by the music of Leroy Anderson. And I think you'll hear the connection. Pierre LaPlante's A Walk in the Morning Sun. Now, a little music history quiz. Who made Leaving on a Jet Plane a big hit? It wasn't the composer, though he did release it before anybody else. But Peter, Paul, and Mary made it the big hit, as well as a lot of other groups covered the tune as well. We're speaking, of course, of music of John Denver. And we have a nice little medley of his selections, starting with Leaving on a Jet Plane, Take Me Home, Country Roads, and Rocky Mountain High, the music of John Denver. was thinking of a time, I'm trying to remember how many years ago this was. This goes back into the early days of the Performing Arts Center, like 2001 or so, 2002 maybe it was, and we had that big storm came through at the beginning of June, and took down a lot of trees, especially in Robinson Park, and we transferred into here, into most of the season here, and in order to try to make it feel more like the park, we had a couple of stage trees we brought in. I remember one point we brought a car on stage so we could flash the lights and beat the horn. I hope we don't have to get back into that kind of thing again. But this kind of brings back some of those memories. Next we have a march written by James Christensen, who was a staff writer for Disney. And so everything that he writes, you have that flavor in there that you say, gee, I think I've heard this one before. This is his great piece called Showtime. Next, we continue with our sesquicentennial recognition of the Civil War with the music arranged by Richard Bauer. And this is one of his Sailors songs set. And within this, there's going to be a couple of tunes that I think you're going to find quite familiar. And it gives the band an opportunity to stretch out and do some things that we don't normally get to do. It's a straight-through medley. And the titles in here are Saturday Night at Sea, talking about the common sailors getting together on Saturday night when they're off watch and singing some songs together, which of course on sailboats at that time was the way of the sailors and a way to both pass the time as well as to get a lot of their work done. The second tune is Haul on the Bowline, a great shanty used for raising sails. The next one is a Rovin, about a sailor's adventures in port, and it has many, many, many verses. The next one is Jolly Grog, and if you maybe know something of the history of all that, grog was a little liquid refreshment that was given to sailors on a limited method, which something had to do with water and some other kind of element there. I think it was rum. This is also a heaving shanty, good for pulling on ropes that they would have to do together. The next one, probably the most familiar of all, What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor? And Richard's interpretation of this particular one kind of made us all think that maybe this the composer was a little nippy when he wrote this version of it, as I think you'll hear when we get into it. But a lot of fun. The last one is The Mermaid, one of the oldest sea songs, and it's treating it in a humorous vein, having to do with seafaring superstitions that, a ship would be out there, they would hear the mermaids, they would go where they thought they were being called, and of course disaster would strike. And in this arrangement, disaster is going to strike, because what you're going to hear as they get following the mermaid, you're going to hear the ship get spun around 3 times, and ultimately it's going to sink. So here is, arranged by Richard Baller, Sailor Songs number 2. We have a lot of fun with that music. Very, very enjoyable. And the band never quite knows what to expect next when I start pulling those things out. Because Richard always has some interesting tricks.
Well, you said it was Christmas in July.
I have to be careful when I say in rehearsals because they tend to take me too literally. Our next selection, Pantomime, by Tchaikovsky, comes from The Nutcracker. And I made a comment last night as we were getting ready to do this work, very, very beautiful movement from the ballet. Said, it seems like we're going to do a Christmas in July. And here we go. So, we sing number 8 from The Nutcracker, the Pantomime, by Tchaikovsky. Well, our next selection is a little bit of a preview for next week's concert. And we're really keeping our fingers crossed that the weather is going to stay with us, because it's kind of hard to open areas up here for dancing. And next week, we have the O'Connor Chiropractic Clinic is sponsoring a concert. And like we did last year, we're going to have a dance program. And that seemed to work really well. As a matter of fact, if you've seen our yellow full season programs, we have all our sponsors and our ad sponsors in it. There's some pictures from last year's season, and one of those was a full dance floor for that particular concert. We hope to be able to achieve that again next week. So by all means, come on out next Tuesday and bring your dancing shoes along with you. Next, a merengue, tropical merengue. Of course, our programming for this concert was set for the outside venue, naturally. As we get down towards the end of the program, as we always do, we have a waltz and a polka for you. And as I know Don Cheese always love to say, the management please request or states that there's absolutely no dancing allowed unless you have to. So if you have to, go right ahead. Here's our waltz, the Prune Song. this is the Amelia Polka. Again, I would like to thank our sponsors for tonight's concert, Pete's Meats and the Eagle Fellowship. And like I said, I believe there's going to be some treats for us next week at the concert from Pete, so be sure you're there for that. Something special. And like I mentioned, next week our dance concert, and so we hope, like I said, the weather will hold and that you'll join us out there at Robinson Park for a great evening of music. Our final march, written by Keith Brown, was written specifically for Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops Orchestra. And the title of the piece, On the Esplanade, describes the place where the Boston Pops did their summer concerts. And this comes from a suite, the Bostonia suite, that he wrote for Fiedler. And Fiedler, with his orchestra, gave it its world premiere in May of 1944. And this particular march was the final movement from that. Now, one of the neat things about the piece is it's a very catchy little tune, and very much in the style of the things that the Boston Pops would play. But what he did very cleverly is sneak in all kinds of musical quotes from many of the pieces that Fiedler did with the Boston Pops. And I think as you listen to this, you'll say, wait a second, I know that piece. And you'll only hear little bits of the melodies from a variety of works. And you can see if you can identify a few of those. Here is Keith Crosby Brown's On the Esplanade.